Okay, so we'll start with Lamai, the next part of this, that is the questions on maximum prices and price stabilization. So we'll do this a bit more faster. We'll try and finish off things as soon as possible. So starting with Lamai, 2011 A-levels, question number 18. So this comes from two areas, maximum prices and price stabilization. Some of the questions are from maximum prices, some of it is from price stabilization. So coming into question 18, the question says, the diagram below shows the supply of and the demand for rice with market equilibrium at E. Assume that the government decides to impose a maximum price of P1 per unit of rice. The most likely outcome, what happens, Laman? So what happens when the government puts a maximum price? Is there an excess demand or an excess supply usually created? What happens when there is a maximum price? Excess demand or excess supply? What gets created in the market when you have a maximum price? An excess demand starts to get created. So then we'll look at the answers. So you all know when you have a maximum price in place. Second. Right. So when you have a maximum price in place, Lama, if you look at this question also, that is set at, let's say, the price P1, what will happen? You will have the quantity supplied at this level. This will be the QS at the price of P1, Lama. This will be your QD. So there will be a excess demand for the good in this part over here. So excess demand of how much, Lamai? Based on the letters that they have given, what can we say? First one says excess supply. No. Shortage of rice. Yes, that is the excess demand of OQ2. Not OQ2. No. Shortage of demand is only this much. This is the shortage. So not number 2. A rise in the equilibrium price above OP2. That's not going to happen. There is a maximum price. Reduction in the price from OP1 won't happen. Excess demand for rice by JK. And that could be our answer, Laman. So when you have a maximum price, there will be an excess demand. What's the area of the excess demand? So here they have the letter J, here they have the letter K. So either you can, if they have given Lamai quantity letters, you can either say that, or you can say the letters on top. Either way, that's the excess demand created. A very easy, straightforward question. Then moving into question number 14 from the 2013 A-level paper. They're saying there will be a simultaneous increase in both price and the quantity traded for a normal good due to what? When do you think the price and the quantity will both increase? So here, Lama, one by one, we'll have to go. The first one says the removal of the effective maximum price of a good. What do you think? Will the price and the quantity traded increase, Lama? So when you have a maximum price, the price will be set at, let's say, this much. The quantity that will be traded will be this limit. Now, what if you remove this maximum price? If you remove this maximum price, the market goes back to equilibrium. So then, Lamai, under the price that you get will also start going up. And what happens to the quantity traded in the market? The quantity traded will also start increasing. So maybe this could be our answer. Right? So we'll see. We'll see if there are other answers. Technological progress. So if there is a technological development, Lamai, what will happen? If there is a technological development, the supply will shift to the right. Then price will come down and the quantity will increase. So we are looking for one where price and quantity both increase. So can't be 2. Third one says imposition of a tax. So you all know, Lamai, when there is a tax, price will increase, but quantity comes down. No? So we want both to increase. No. Granting of a subsidy. Subsidy, you all know, Lamai, just like the technology diagram, supply shifts to the right, price reduces, quantity increases. Again, can't be. A decrease in the price of a substitute. If a substitute price decrease, Lamai, the demand for your good will decrease. So the demand for your good will come down. So as a result, Lamai, your price will come down, your quantity will come. So then not this as well. So answer is number 1. Did you all get that correct? 2013 question 14. How many of you got that right? Maximum prices. Okay, good. Then moving into our next one. 2014 A levels, question number 10. Now, this is a bit on Lamai, the price stabilization story. They're saying the prices of agricultural goods, such as potatoes and big onions, are high during certain periods of the year while they are low during the same periods of another year. The main reason for this is what? What, Lamai? Why do prices of agricultural goods fluctuate? Because the demand and supply for these agricultural goods are what, Lamai? They are elastic or inelastic. Agricultural goods. The demand and supply for agricultural goods, Lamai, both of it is inelastic. So you have an inelastic demand, inelastic supply. So I'll go into detail why when we do a essay question, there is a question. So then you will see, Lamai, even when there is a small change in the supply, let's say the farmer gets a good harvest, or let's say farmer gets a bad harvest. So if even if the supply increases a little or lot, little low increases a little or decreases a little, the price changes a lot. Look at this. Let's say supply increases a little, farmer gets a good harvest, supply goes up a little. But see, Lamai, the quantity goes up a very little, but there is a huge fall in the price. Same way, if the supply decreases a little, quantity will go down a very little, but the price changes much bigger. That's why agricultural goods, Lamai, have inelastic, it has inelastic demand and supply, and that's why prices are unstable. We'll go into that more in detail. There is an essay question. I'll teach you that story from scratch. So the answer here then would be answer number 3, the existence of inelastic demand and inelastic supply. Then the 2017 question is saying, which of the following is true for a product, for a market, for a certain product, if buyers are consistently willing to sell, sorry, if producers are consistently willing to sell more at the going price than what consumers are willing to buy? Which one do you think, Laman? Producers are willing to sell more at the going price than what consumers are willing to buy. What do you think is there over here, Laman? This might not be a maximum price question also. Which one? Producers are willing to sell more. That means the quantity supplied is higher than what the consumers are willing to buy. So quantity supplied is higher than the quantity demand level. When do you have this? In a maximum price or a minimum price? When is the producer willing to sell much more than what the consumer is willing to buy? That's not in a maximum price. No, so even though this is the maximum price paper, Lama, it's a minimum price, right? That's a mistake on my end. I didn't put the wrong question. So where do you have this? You have this, Lamai, in a minimum price. When you have a minimum price, the quantity supplied will be much, much higher than the quantity demanded. So which one can be your answer then? First one says demand is highly elastic, supply is highly elastic, product is inferior. I don't think those come at all. Where will the QS be high? So the QS can be high, Lamai, when you have a price flow. Price flow is another name for a minimum price. Is that okay? If there's a minimum price, Lamai, this would be much higher than this. Not a price ceiling, it will be a price flow. That's why the QS will be much greater. So answer number 5. Then moving into the next one, 2019 A levels, question number 10. They're saying the diagram below shows the market demand and supply curves for a normal good. The market equilibrium price could rise from P1 to P2 if what happens? When will the market equilibrium price rise? If consumers' income increases, if the price of a complementary product increases, cost of product. Okay, this is the same question that was there in the tute as well, right? If cost of production was lowered, subsidies was increased. Right. How can the market price rise, Lamai, from P1 to P2? Just give me a second. Okay, sorry about that, guys. We had a small power cut. Give me 1 second. Hold on. Sorry about that. Okay, right. Sorry about that. I had a small power cut. Sometimes this current goes and comes, and then what happens is my whole Wi-Fi goes for a 6. Okay. Right. I'll have my camera off for a little, and then I'll on it back in a while. Give me a second. So, okay. So where we are? We are in question number 10 here. So what can you say about this question, Lama? It's an interesting question. They're saying the diagram below shows the market demand and supply curves for a normal good. When can the market equilibrium price rise? What do y'all think the answer is? Quickly give me answers. Which one do y'all think? 2, 1. When can the equilibrium price rise, Lamai? Think of demand and supply both. We'll go one by one. So one is saying, Lamai, if the consumer's income increased. So if consumer's income increased, and the demand curve will shift to the right. And then, Lamai, actually the price can increase. So maybe it could be one. Look at the others. Number 2 is saying the price of a complementary product increased. What happens if the price of a complementary good increases? If the price of a complementary good increases, Lamai, the demand for your good will come down. So if demand comes down, then your price will come down, Lamai, equilibrium price. So then can't be 2. Okay, it's not number 2. Number 3 is saying cost of production was lower. If cost of production was lower, Lamai, supply will increase. If supply increases, then also your price will come down. So not 3. Subsidies were increased. Same thing, no subsidies, none, supply will increase, again price will come down. Number 5 says P2 was set as a maximum price. Now, like, can you set P2 as a maximum price? Does it make sense? Can you set a maximum price above equilibrium? Setting a maximum price above equilibrium, Lamai, won't make any sense, no? Because you will come back to the normal equilibrium again. It will be ineffective. What's the point? If you set a maximum price is Lamai, that means you can sell it as P2. So then you will again start selling at P1 because you will start coming into the equilibrium that is over there. So then not number 5 as well. So answer will be number 1. 2019, question 10 is number 1. Then the next one, 2020. Okay, this is easy. When a price ceiling is imposed in a market, what will happen? So when you have, Lamai, a price ceiling, that means a maximum price, what do you think happens? A persistent shortage results, a persistent surplus results. Sellers of the product are made better off. No one is made better off. Quantity supplied is greater than quantity demand. What do you have now? Do you have a surplus of the goods or do you have a shortage of goods? When you put a maximum price. Quantity supplied is this much, quantity demand is here. So you have an excess demand. Excess demand, Lamai, means there is a shortage of goods. So many people want to buy, but not much units are there in the market. So which one is your answer then? Answer number 1. Okay, that's 2020. Then the next one, 2022, question 12 says, the market price for wheat flour is 350 per kilogram and the market quantity is 30. Which of the following policies would create an excess demand for wheat flour under this condition? So when will there be an excess demand level? Right now, they are saying the price is 350 and the quantity is 30 million kilos. When will you have excess demand? You will have an excess demand, Lamai, if you set a maximum price. In other words, if you set a price ceiling. So that price ceiling has to be, Lamai, at a price less than 350. So then you might have something. So see, what can you get as an answer then? Imposing a price ceiling of 330 looks correct. Answer number 1. If you set it at 330, Anna, right? Quantity supplied, quantity demand will be much higher. There could be an excess demand. So it could be answer 1. 2 says price flown away. 4 also I will cut. 3 says price ceiling of 400. Now, no point setting a price ceiling of 400 in Lamai. You don't set a price ceiling above equilibrium. That doesn't make sense. So then that's also wrong. A price ceiling of 375, again, that's also. So answer is number 1. That's 2022. Then the last one we have in terms of MCQs is the 2024 MCQ paper, question number 12. Suppose a highly regulated economy has decided to move towards a market economy and removed government price controls in the market. The diagram shows such a market where the government had initially set a maximum effective price. So a maximum price, is it at 40 or is it at 60? If they have set a maximum price. It should have been at 40, no? You don't set a maximum price above equilibrium. Okay. And now they are saying, they have removed it. So if they remove, what effect was there on price and quantity when the government removed the maximum price? What will happen to price, Lamai? Right now the price is 40 because there's a maximum price. If you remove it, it would go to, it would rise to where, Lamai? 50 or 60? Where is it going to rise? It would go to 50. It would go back to equilibrium, no? So from 40 to 60, 40 to 50. So which answer talks about that? And what happens to the shortage? Now, right now there is a shortage of goods. What do you think happens to that shortage? That shortage will get removed. Now you go back into equilibrium. So which one is your answer then? Answer number 3. Rises from 40 to 50 and removes the shortage. Okay. So how did you all do out of those MCQs then? We had 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 MCQs. How do you all do out of 8? At least around 5? Yeah. Good. All right. Give me a minute until I switch my Wi-Fi and we'll move back. Now we can move into this. So until this time, I think of this question until I switch my Wi-Fi back. Yeah. Okay. So coming into this now. We are in this question. Give me a second until my screen and all gets loaded back. Okay, so we're coming into the question from the 2017 A-level paper. That is where your first essay question from this whole maximum prices, price stabilization part starts coming in. So the 2017 A-level question, Lamai says, part 5. Question 2, part 5. What are the economic consequences of a maximum price for an essential good? Now, for a diagram like this, for a question like this, Lamai, having a diagram is good. Right? So they have not asked you to explain using a diagram, but I would always recommend to have a small diagram. So then, and also, Lamai, the question says, what are the consequences? So when they say, what are the consequences, Lamai, you don't have to explain very much in detail. So even if you give, now don't give very short points, but normal points should be enough. So you can say, right, you can have a small diagram, right? This is the maximum price that is set. So what happens, Lamai? What are the consequences? What can you write? So I've given a few things I have typed. So I have typed, Lamai, there is an excess demand that creates a shortage of goods in the market. The price paid by the consumers will decrease. And then as a result, consumer surplus will go up. I am saying there could be the emergence of black market prices where the producers might, now because of a shortage of goods, they might try to sell it at a higher price. That could start happening. Then there could be, Lamai, because of the shortage, you'll have to have some sort of rationing techniques like the queuing method, bundling with other goods, right? You might have, let's say, coupons, ration cards. All of that can come into play. There could be bribes. Then you can talk about my creation of a dead weight loss. That's also an economic consequence. You can talk about producer surplus decreasing, the producer getting a much lesser price. So anything, Lama, if you've given around 5 proper points explaining what happens when there is a maximum price, you will get your answers. I would recommend you to support that answer with a small diagram showing this is what is actually happening. And then if you can connect it to the diagram when you're writing the answer, maybe if you're talking about the black market price, so you can say there could be a maximum black market price of, let's say, this much, let's say P3, that could be created. And that's a better answer that would come. A very easy, straightforward question. Then moving into the next one, that is the 2019 A-level question, part 3. Now, this whole price stabilization part, Lamai, was introduced to your syllabus from 2019 onwards. So the first question is asking you, explain why the prices of primary products such as agricultural crops are unstable in the market. So I will copy the note that is there in my theory note itself, and I will explain the story too. Give me a second, then you all have a answer that you all can write down as well. Hold on. Okay. So this is the note that I have in my theory class tute. So let me explain the story line. Now, this same question has been repeated in the future as well. So then I will not be going into that. I will ask you to refer to this. So the question is saying, Lamai, why do products, primary products, right? Prices of these primary products, such as agricultural crops, why are they unstable in the market? Now, you all would have realized that. Now, if you take any in the market, Lamai, now see, your class fees hasn't changed, right? Or even any other products, Lamai, the prices don't change very often. No. But if you take agricultural goods like vegetables, rice, the price always changes, no? Now, price of vegetables that is today is not the price that might be there tomorrow. In another 1 week, it might be a different price. Carrot prices today might be 500 a kilo, tomorrow might be 700. Day after tomorrow, it might come back to 400. So they are asking you, why is that? Why are the prices of agricultural goods unstable in the market? So let me explain that story to you. So compared to my industrial goods, now, agricultural goods are essential. No? Now, if you take rice, vegetables, they are essential goods. So, for essential goods, Lamai, as a consumer, we will have inelastic demand. So, because agricultural goods are essential goods, Lamai, the demand for agricultural goods will be inelastic. And then, along with that, Lamai, now, if you take agricultural goods, you can't easily increase the supply. If the price of agricultural goods increase today, can you increase the amount of agricultural goods today itself? No, it will take some time for you to grow the vegetables, do all of that. So supply is also inelastic now. The demand for agricultural goods are also inelastic. The supply is also inelastic. You can't easily increase or decrease that. And then based on that, Lama, you have your equilibrium price. Now let me explain to you why the prices are unstable. So demand is inelastic. The supply is inelastic. My next question to you is, Lamai, does the farmer who grow these agricultural crops have perfect control over the supply? Can he say in 6 months now when I plant my vegetables, in 6 months I will exactly get 100 kilos of carrot, or I will get 50 kilos of this? Does he have perfect control? Now, in a manufacturing business, you have Nilamai now. Let's say if you're producing t-shirts in a factory, you can exactly produce the exact amount that you want. But can a farmer do that? What do you all think? Yes or no? Can a farmer exactly produce what he wants? No, Lamai. So farmer does not have control. Can you tell me why? Why does the farmer not have perfect control? Can you give me reasons? farmer does not have perfect control over the supply. So therefore, Lamai, what happens? Why does the farmer doesn't have? There could be weather problems, right? Sometimes, Lamai, your fertilizer might be not working, right? Your fertilizer issues. Sometimes, Lamai, pest might come and destroy your crop, right? You can have animals coming and destroy your crop. There could be so many things. So because of so many reasons, Lamai, the farmer can't perfectly control. Sometimes if the weather is good, right? If the weather is good, if the, let's say, fertilizer works, and he will get a good harvest. But let's say the weather is not good, right? Fertilizer doesn't work, animals come and destroy his crop, he might get a bad harvest, supply might decrease. So farmer doesn't have perfect control, Lamai. So therefore, the supply that comes out to the market could either increase or it could either decrease. So because farmer can't control level. Based on what he grows, something might happen based on nature. It might increase or decrease. So now see, Lamai, I'll give you one situation. Let's say the fertilizer and everything worked very well. Let's say the weather was good, everything was good. The farmer Lamai got a supply more than what he initially expected because he doesn't have control. So he expected to, let's say, get only, let's say, 500 kilos of rice, uh, let's say 500 kilos of carrot. But because of the weather and everything being good, he got 600 kilos. So if the supply increases, Lamai, look at this. So let's say initially he was selling 500 kilos. Supply increased only a little, let's say from 500 to 600 at equilibrium quantity. But look at what happens to the equilibrium price level. Because of a small increase in the supply, the price falls so much. And that is why it's unstable, Lamai. Same thing works the other side. Now, what if, Lamai, there is a small reduction in the supply? Let's say weather was bad, some animals came and destroyed the farmer's crop. So instead of, let's say, him getting 500 kilos, he only got, let's say, Lamai, 400 kilos of, let's say, carrot. Now what happens? Look at this. Now, Lamai, there's a huge increase in the price. So that is why the prices of agricultural goods, Lamai, are unstable. So you have to explain the fact that demand is inelastic, supply is inelastic, and the farmer doesn't have control over the supply. He doesn't have perfect control. So many factors can affect the fertilizer, the rain, the weather, right? Any natural disasters, any animals, all of it can affect your supply. So therefore, even if supply increases a little, or even if it decreases a little, what happens, Lamai? The prices change a lot. So that is why prices of agricultural crops are unstable in the market. So that question, Lamai, they have asked you multiple times. So I'll show you in the future also. There are places they have asked this exact same thing, which you can give the same answer. Is that okay? Fine. Why are agricultural goods unstable prices? Then the next thing that they can ask you is, Lamai, if the prices of these agricultural goods are unstable, okay, if they ask for 6 marks, you'll have to draw a diagram and all and explain, Lamai, if it's a big 6 mark question. There are some questions I'll show. Okay. So if they, okay, no, excess investment, that is, sorry, I just missed the message. Excess investment will be in a minimum price, not in a maximum price. Okay. Right. So then the next thing that they can ask you is, Lamai, what can the government do? Now, if these prices of agricultural goods are often unstable, then what can the government do to stabilize these prices? Now, that is your next question. What measures could be taken by the government to stabilize the price of agricultural goods? There are multiple measures, Lama. Only stating the measures is enough. So that also let me copy and paste it from my note quickly so that I don't have to type it. So these are a few things that the government can do. So what can the government do, Lamai? So one thing that the government can do, now that's why, Lamai, for these agricultural goods, they have, Lamai, these guaranteed prices. They provide this deficiency payment, purchase the excess supply. They do all of that. Because now let's say a farmer works very hard. He works very hard and he gets a good supply. If he gets a good supply, if the supply increases, you can see the price that the farmer gets falls a lot. Then farmer is at a disadvantage. So to protect that farmer and to make sure prices are stable, one thing the government can do is they can implement those minimum prices making sure, okay, farmer, don't worry, we will minimum guarantee give you this. And along with that, you can have a deficiency payment as well. That's one thing. Another thing that the government can do is government can fix quotas. So quota is a limit. Now, government knows if all the farmers produce and supply increases, then prices will go down. So then government gives each farmer, let's say, a quota limit. So government knows the overall demand. Then government tells farmer A, okay, you produce only 100 kilos. Based on that, cultivate your land. Don't produce more. You produce only this much. So if you give quotas, then the farmers won't overproduce. No? If they overproduce, price goes down. Supply will increase, price goes up. But if you can give them a fixed quota, then that won't happen. And that is the third one. Another thing the government can do is the fourth one is government can pay the farmers and discourage cultivation. Now, let's say there are 1,000 farmers in Sri Lanka. Now, if all of these 1,000 fellows produced, what will happen? And the price will start going down, supply will increase. So what the government can do is during a certain season, they can tell out of these 1,000 farmers, let's say 200 farmers, they will tell this season you all don't cultivate. They'll tell 200 people, May season එක ඔයා cultivate කරන්න එපා. I will give you some amount of money for you to survive during these months. Next season you cultivate. So that way, the government reduces the supply. So then that also will keep prices stable, because otherwise if all of these fellows produce, prices will fall. No? Supply will increase, prices fall. So government will pay these farmers and say, Ane, don't produce this season. Some of y'all take a break now. That could be that. Then the next one, accumulating and releasing buffer stock. How does this work? The fifth one here. Now if you all take rice, okay, just an example. Rice doesn't always grow. No? There are seasons, right? You have the Maha season, Yala season, you have seasons. So in those seasons, rice gets cultivated. But if you take the demand for rice, we don't eat rice in seasons. We eat rice every day. All 365 days, we eat rice. So now there is a problem there. Now, if you cultivate, let's say, in one season, and all of that output comes at that point, then supply will increase, price of rice will go down rapidly. In the other times, there will be a shortage of rice, prices will increase rapidly. So therefore, what does the government do, Lamai, when you take things like rice and all? Because rice can be stored. No? So what does the government do, Lamai? They maintain buffer stocks. So let's say now during the rice season, there's a huge supply of rice that is coming to the market. So what will the government do? They won't let that huge thing come up. They will buy the excess and they will purchase. They will buy buffer stock. Right? They will buy the buffer stock and they will store some excess and keep. As a result, supply will reduce. They won't now. Let's say, for example, during the season, 5,000 kilos of rice is going to come. But they won't let all 5,000 come. They will, let's say, buy around 3,000, store it and keep as buffer stock. So they will only let 2,000 kilos come. So that way, prices remain stable. And same way, when there is, let's say, shortages, supply is going to reduce, then rice prices can go up. No? Then what does the government do? Then they release that buffer stock. Then they put it back. So they can get that done. That is number 5, accumulating and releasing buffer stocks. Yes, importing, exporting is also there. So now another thing, number 6, that's my next point. You can export. Now, if the farmer, my local farmer, now practically think, if all of them produce and all of them try to supply domestically, domestic supply will increase, price will come down. So what the government can do is, government can encourage some of these farmers to export. So government can give them export subsidies. Government can give them things like that. That is number 6. Then you can have government providing accurate information. Just farmers don't know. Farmers don't know how much the demand for this one is. How much has to be cultivated. They don't know. So government can give them information. Government can say, okay, look here, carrot farmers, this is the amount of carrot that is required for a month. So don't produce more. If you all produce more, then supply will increase. You all only will lose. So produce only this much. So government can give that information for them. That's number 6. And then government can provide inputs for fertilizer and all of that, because sometimes the farmers work hard, price supply increases, they lose on the price. So to help the farmer, then government can give like fertilizer subsidies, different things. They can even have, let's say, insurance policies for any hazards, all of it. And yes, you can even take importing when there's a shortage of goods, and the government can import and make sure that the prices are stable. All of that is possible. So those are things that the government can do. Buffer stock, once again, buffer stock is where the government purchases and stores and keeps like a excess stock. So when there is so much of rice that is going to come out to the market, government will purchase those rice and store it and keep. That is called buffer stock. Then when there is a shortage, they will release that buffer stock back to the market. So those are things that the government can do, to keep prices of agricultural goods stable. Now the same question is tested so many different ways, the same thing. So I took some time to go through that in detail, because I will not be going through that in detail again in the next parts. Okay. That's the whole price stabilization part, and that is all that is there in price stabilization in your syllabus. Okay. Then we'll go into the next ones. Okay. So 2020 A levels question 2 says, name 3 non-price rationing methods. 3 non-price rationing methods is there. Export subsidies, for example, government can tell the farmer, instead of supplying your products into the local market, you export it. So if you export it per kilo of rice, I will give you 10 rupees, something like that. So then the farmer is motivated to export it. Instead of supplying the local market, he gets 10 rupees more if you export. So Anna, he tries to export it. So then that whole supply doesn't come into the local market. So prices stay stable there. Just draw a diagram to buffer stock. To draw a diagram to buffer stock, you can show when the supply is increasing, how the government will purchase and send it back. Right? So you can, I think there is a question of that in one of my mock papers also. We'll go into that at that point. So, and then when supply is decreasing, they will release the buffer stock. So you can show it that. Right. Okay, I'm guessing that's it. Okay, so then now we move in the next one, the non-price rationing techniques. So we study this under maximum prices now when there is a shortage of goods. Now, usually you ration using price, no? But what are the non-price rationing techniques? So here you can have queuing systems, you can have bundling with other goods, you can have these quotas, ration cards, you can have things like that. So writing 3 of this is enough, and they're saying name 3, no? You don't have to explain, just naming the 3 is enough. There's another question asking you to briefly explain. There you can explain. And then even things like black markets or bribes and even favored customers. Right? That can be there. Now, for example, now I can also do this. I'll give you an example of this favored customers thing. Let's say in my fast track class, I am only taking 300 students. Let's say 400 people want to join. Then what I can do is I can have a small test and see who are the students who are doing the exam well. And then based on that, the people who are doing it well, only that 300 I take. The other 100 who have not learned anything, I don't take. So I am favoring some people. That is favored customer. So you can solve your shortage like that. I only have 300 slots, but 400 people want to join. Demand is only, supply is only 300, demand there is 400. There's an excess demand of 100. How do I solve it? I favor some customers. So I see who are the smart fellows, I only take them. I don't take the others. And that is another one there. Okay. Right. So name the 3, enough. Then we go to the next one. Meet in 2020 levels, why does a price ceiling create an excess demand for a good? Explain your answer using a diagram. Easy, so have a diagram and explain now. So you can say a price, when is a price ceiling put? A price ceiling is put when the government feels that the price received by the paid by the consumer is unfair. So then to help the consumer, and the government comes and puts this price ceiling. So when they set this price ceiling below equilibrium price, what happens? The supplier is demotivated, law of supply. So the quantity supplied will tend to reduce. But along with that, when the price is set below equilibrium, lower price can have a law of demand. Quantity demand would start increasing. So as a result, what do you have? and you have excess demand in the market. So you have to draw that diagram and you have to explain the diagram. Let me say if the maximum price is set at this price, this will be the QS now, this will be the QD now, and there is an excess demand of this amount. That's the story there. So it's a very easy question, Lamai, but you all need to put the right and practice. The question itself is very easy. You get around a 1 to 2 marks for the diagram and you get the remaining marks for the explanation. Okay. That's question 2. I'm not typing answer, Amma. You can refer to the marking scheme for a typed answer. If you can't find one, get it from that. Okay. Then 2021. Explain using two diagrams. Sorry, there is a 2 is not there, no? I think. Explain using, I think it has to be a diagram, how a price ceiling creates a dead weight loss. Remember, today before the break, we did taxes and subsidies dead weight loss. Now they're asking you, how does a price ceiling create a dead weight loss? So we'll draw and we'll see. Now, this is your demand curve. This is your supply curve. So supply curve represents your marginal cost curve. Demand curve represents your marginal benefit curve. Based on this, Anna, you have equilibrium price and quantity. So this equilibrium price here, this is your allocatively efficient level of output. I showed you that. So now when the government comes and puts this maximum price, right? Then they put this maximum price or price ceiling. Now what happens? Supplier is supplying only this amount. Consumer is willing to buy more, yes. But even though consumer is willing to buy more, if only let's say Lamai, this QS amount of units is supplied, the market quantity gets limited to this amount, this QS amount. So now you have to ideally, let's say, be producing and selling 100 units. But because the government came and put this maximum price, now you're only selling, let's say, 75 units. So now you have an underproduction that is happening. You have to produce 700, but you're only producing 75 because the government came and intervened. Now there is an underproduction. That means you're not allocatively efficient. You're not allocating your resources properly. So then which area represents the inefficiency? So at that underproduction level, between that 75 and 100, I showed you at this area, between this 75 and 100, look at that thin strip. Compare the marginal cost and the marginal benefit. So marginal benefit is over here, the green one. Marginal cost is over here, the blue one. You can see the marginal benefit is higher than the marginal cost. That leads to inefficiency. That inefficiency is called dead weight loss under the triangle there. Same thing as what we did for tax and subsidy. Same logic you have to apply. You have to now draw and explain. We would have done this in the revision class as well. You would have wrote some answers. Theory class also, I think I would have given an answer for taxes. Okay, done. Then 2022, question number 2, list and briefly describe any 3 non-price rationing system. So here also same thing, Lama. Now you have to put the describe it. So what are the techniques? So you can have the queuing method. Queuing method, Lama, is also known as the first come first serve basis. So here, when you have a shortage of goods, you can get the consumers or the buyers to stand in queues. That's what they did when Sri Lanka had a gas shortage. Remember, when you had a gas shortage, you had to stay in a queue. You had to stay in a queue, and then they give you a small token also that you don't jump the queue. And then first come, first serve basis, they allocate. And I explain that in your words, Lamai, 1 to 2 words, queuing method. Another thing is, Lamai, the quota system, right? Quota, or we call this earlier, Lamai, you have this ration cards. Now, that is what they did with the fuel shortage. When you had a fuel shortage, how did you ration? You didn't increase the price of fuel for 1,000 rupees. Now, what you did is, you gave everyone a quota. Remember the QR code system? That is a quota. Everyone got, let's say, cars got 20 liters per week. That's all the petrol that you can pump. You can only pump 20 liters per week. So then you will have to use that 20 liters. That's it. And you're allocating your limited resources. That is that. Then, Lama, you can also do bundling with other goods. So what is this bundling with other goods? Remember, when there was this milk powder shortage, you couldn't only buy milk powder. They told you if you're buying milk powder, you have to buy 5 yogurts also, or 10 yogurts. And they're bundling with other goods and giving. So then demand comes down. Not everyone wants yogurt. So if you want to buy yogurt, now you have to spend more. Sorry, buy milk powder, you have to spend more because they are asking you to buy yogurt also. And this comes down. So any method, like I mention the method briefly in around 2 to 3 lines, describe the method. So for each of this, you will get 2 marks. So in your words, you have to learn to write lamai. Now, sometimes you might not have in your tute and all of these explained word by word, but you know these. So that writing has to come from your end. Only then you will improve that. Okay, that's the 2022 part 2. Then the next one. See, same thing again. Why do prices of agricultural products fluctuate more than the prices of industrial products? Same thing that we learned before. So you have to now explain. Now this is a 6 mark question. So you go a little bit more in detail. So talk about how the demand is inelastic, talk about how the supply is inelastic, then talk about how the supply farmer has no control over it, talk about weather, talk about pests, talk about natural disasters, talk about all of that, right? For what fertilizer, and then say, right, even if the supply increases a little, draw your diagram and show, Lamai. Even if the supply increases a little, the farmer gets a good harvest, what happens? The price will go down a lot. But if the farmer gets a bad harvest, supply reduces a bit, then the price increases a lot. You can do that. And then also touch a little on industrial goods, Lamai, because they are saying industrial goods. So you can say, however, this does not happen in industrial goods, because industrial goods, there is perfect control. You can control the output, and also the demand and supply won't be inelastic. Therefore, industrial goods will not have this issue. It's the agricultural goods that have the issue. So product, touch on that and explain now. Same thing repeated all over again. Okay, that's 2022, question 3, part 1. Then the next one. Okay. The 2024 question, that's the latest question that you have. Supply is inelastic. No, demand is inelastic because it's an essential good. Supply is inelastic because if you take agricultural goods, you can't increase the supply all of a sudden. If the price of agricultural good increase, හෙට supply වැඩි කරන්න බෑනේ. Now if price of rice increase, can the paddy farmer increase his paddy supply tomorrow? No, it will take time for him to grow, and it will take time, right? It will take 6 months for it to come out. So that's why supply is inelastic. Demand is inelastic, yes, because it is an essential good. So explain that story and have a nice answer. And then you have this, that's the last question that we have for today. Analyze the impact of a maximum price on consumer, producer, and overall economic welfare. So when you say overall economic welfare, Lama, you're referring to your whole economic surplus, that social welfare, that story there. So you can explain, Lama. So you can explain how does this work. So you have to have a diagram also here, Lama. Better to show a diagram. Otherwise, it's hard to explain. So have a diagram, and then you can have. Favoring customers mean the suppliers favor some customers to buy the quantity required. Yes. No, so you favor can now, for example, now I have only, let's say, 100 eggs. So I give it to only the people that I like. So I give it to the favorite people. I don't give it to other people, something like that. Okay. So then draw the diagram, demand, supply, when there is a maximum price. Talk a little bit about the black market. So you can also now label this as A, B, C, D, right? You can talk about those. I think that is enough. No. Better to break the equilibrium also and show. Okay. So you have B, C, D, E, F. Okay. So you can talk about Lama. You can talk about now. This part is very easy from your tute itself. Get Lama. So when they ask you how does this affect consumer surplus, so then you have to say consumer surplus before the subsidy. Before the subsidy, consumer was paying maximum price. They were paying this price. They were buying this quantity. Therefore, consumer surplus before was A, B, and C. But now after the maximum price, now consumer surplus will actually increase a bit because the consumer pays a bit of a lower price. But then you can talk a little bit about if that surge cost and all is there, then consumer surplus is only A, but otherwise consumer surplus will be A, B, and D. Consumer surplus after. So you can talk a little bit about this. And then you can talk about how does producer surplus change. So producer surplus before is DEF. Now producer surplus becomes only F. So Anna, right? Earlier producer is selling this much, he's getting this much of a price, therefore it is DEF. But now because of this whole thing, now they are only getting this lamai. That is that. You can talk a little bit about the black market price as well. So you can say if there is a surge cost and a black market price that gets created, then consumer surplus might only be the area A. But otherwise, it would be A, B, and D. So economic welfare, yes, they're talking about the whole social welfare story. You can talk about, now I'll share the original marking scheme also. Give me a second. There you can talk about how earlier the entire A, B, C, D, E, F is a part of your economic welfare, your total economic surplus. But now the area C and E will be lost. And that goes out. Only A, B, D, F becomes a part of economic welfare. So let me share the original marking scheme answers since some of y'all have not seen it. Give me 1 second. Then y'all can make some notes. Con. I'm guessing you all can see another screen now. Stop this screen share. That's the last question. So if you go down in this is the original marking scheme. Hold on. This one, question 3, part 3. Part 3 is this. See, impact on consumer service. Here they have not even given a diagram. They can, here they are saying an analysis of CSPS by a diagram is also better, right? And even a table they have given marks. So here they're saying when a consumer surplus is put, here look at the impact on consumer surplus. So consumers can buy the product at a lower price. As a result, what happens? Consumer surplus increases. However, it could lead to a shortage also. They're saying it could lead to a shortage. And if there is, a surge cost and all, then it might actually go down. Then here, impact on producer surplus, they're giving. So when the maximum price is put, what happens to the price the producer gets? What happens to his quantity? So he now gets a lower revenue, his production comes down, and then his total producer surplus will also decrease. And then the impact on overall economic welfare. So what happens? You can talk a little bit about the dead weight loss. You can talk about the social welfare loss story, right? You can talk about that. So 2 marks, 2 marks, 2 marks is what they have given. And you see on the right, can you see, Lama? This is the note that the professor has made, or whoever teacher who is marking that paper would have made. They're saying, I'm probably sure my original marking scheme should also have one. See, an analysis of CSPS, economic surplus, can be presented by a diagram or table, and they can give marks as well. So I would recommend better to give a diagram. It's more clearer at your level. But even if you have not given a diagram, they're still giving marks. And if they have told, even if you have done a diagram and explained the story, still to allocate marks. That is that story there. So that is it with this whole maximum prices and price stabilization thing. So with that, we can then call it off. In the English medium marks. That is the problem now as the education department problem. But I have I have sent you all the original marking schemes now. It's there on that Google Drive link I would have sent. I'll resend it if you want. It's there in that. So you can explain the story there. Marking schemes, yes, they're not in the internet. I think I have all of these marking schemes. I'll share. I think I've shared it with you. If you're in the fast track class group, Lamai, check the fast track class group description. The group description has it. I'll add it to the past paper class group description as well. Then otherwise you all don't have to text me every time. So in the group description, I will add a link. All my original marking schemes. Latest papers will I have the original ones. Others are the normal past paper behind ones. You can have a check there. Okay. So with that, we'll then call it off. Reminder that tomorrow we have a credit creation related past paper session. Tomorrow the class will be from 8 onwards. So we'll do that questions there and we'll get that done. So see you and bye-bye.